Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody this wonderful morning? Everybody's wonderful. I guess I must be in the right place. Well, the theme and the topic is really interesting. I'm not going to talk a lot today about what other people said. I'm going to talk a lot today about how I experience the bright Christ light and how I work with it, and when I use it and what it does for me. I can only talk from my personal experience, but I can tell you, if you do this, you're going to get some wonderful results. And to set the tone today, we had the daily word by Bruce, which was perfect. And it is divine order. And one of my daily affirmations that I work with all the time is that divine right action takes place in my life, and there's a gradual, orderly, sequential unfoldment into form of the highest and best that I am. And that's a place that we really want to stay focused in on. Because if we can get to the position where we can accept that and not question the order things flow and try to rearrange them, it makes it a lot easier. I got some really old friends here today who have known me since the real early 80s. In particular Dawn, and then my good friend Wendy Klein. Her and I and her husband Lloyd took our ministerial classes together. So you'll probably be able to confirm some of my stories. You know, I was a bit of a control freak. I was a lot worse than I am now. And that's a major part of really being willing to step up and to stand in the light, is that willingness to be able to let go of that idea of control. And as you let go of it, the most wonderful thing happens. You become totally in control of your life. You see, we don't have to control that, because there is that which inside of us that knows this divine right action that has to take place, and that gradual, orderly, sequential unfoldment into form of the highest and best that we can be. So I want to talk about a little bit about this bright Christ light. The first thing I use this is for affirmative prayer for protection and clearing of undesirable and uncomfortable energy. Whether that undesirable and uncomfortable energy happens to be part of the consciousness of the structure, whether it happens to be part of the physical people that are present, or if it has to be the other type of energy. I think most of you know what I mean. I don't want to get into that today. That would be another discussion. However, we work with it all the same way. So one of the ways that I'm doing that, how I center myself in consciousness, and we work with this almost every day. I hold and support myself in a vision of love, life, and light. I know that I am whole, perfect, and complete at all times and in all ways, and I know that the divine healing presence of good and God is in me, flows through me, and expresses by means of me in my own unique and special way. And I now experience, this is the key, perfect circulation, assimilation, and elimination in all of my bodily functions and all of my physical affairs. Get that one working, because it covers a lot. And one of the things that happens is, I got to get that down a little. That's better now. I can see. One of the things that really happens is we tend to try to hang on to toxic relationships. No, you got to let them go. You got to purify your channel. And if there's a desire by that individual to move back into your experience, then one must learn to have boundaries and limits. Okay? It's called unconditional love. But we don't need toxicity in our experience. So the other one that I use, and this is a quick, easy one, and I use this a lot of times, And it's the title. I dwell in the bright Christ light, only goodness is attracted to me. And that establishes who and what I am in consciousness. And I uphold that, and then I can deal with everything around me. I use this every time I step out into the wilderness. Only I add one thing to that. I dwell in the bright Christ light, only goodness is attracted to me. Thank you, Brother Bear, Brother Wolf, and Brother Eagle, for sharing your home with me today. Because that establishes in my consciousness that I am stepping in to someone else's home. And I conduct myself accordingly. You do that, then you can wander those hills like I have for just about 70 years, and you can meet everything there face to face. And today I'm unscathed, because that's the consciousness I take there. Even when I didn't know this philosophy, I took the consciousness of respect into the mountains as a little boy growing up, because the mountain was at the end of my street, 10 houses up. And so when you establish that in consciousness, there's a power. No matter what the situation is, and no matter how afraid you might be, you cannot stand in fear because you become part of the problem. You must stand in the light. And that affirmation is the quickest way to draw yourself back into the power and presence. And then, as you stand in that light, then the Spirit can give you what it is that you need to do to deal with that situation. Okay? If you want to ask me how I know, you got 2 or 3 days? There are lots of stories on that one I can tell you. So, use that as an affirmative prayer. And really, it's not just words. You can't just use the word. It don't work just using the words. You got to use the words, and you got to stand in that light. Okay? Hard to do. But when you can stand in that light and get the strength and the conviction, things can happen that are beyond comprehension, beyond belief. But it can only happen when we stand in that light, and that's the light of faith. And we will be given what we need to do. Next point here is the key to finding and experiencing guidance, strength, and comfort in the Christ presence. How do we do that? Well, I got to tell you, and Wendy knows this. You ask her. When we first got into this, one of the things was one of our mentors was a guy by the name of Jack Boland with the Mastermind Principle. And he starts it by saying, you recite these words, I admit that I am powerless to improve my life and solve my problems. I need help. I surrender. Anybody ever had a problem with something like that? I surrender? Well, I had such a problem with it, you can ask, I changed the words. Because this, I won't say what I called it, but you know. And when one doesn't understand an extremely important concept, which I should have because it already had happened to me, one says they want to learn and move forward and yet saying, no, I'm not surrendering to anybody or anything. Does that sound like ego? Oh, yeah. Mine was strong. The force was strong. And I got a couple of really bad crowd kickings, and I go, okay, I surrender. And you know, the power to get that Christ consciousness working for you with the declaration is you have to be willing to surrender. You have to be willing to let go of the control that you think you know what to do to get this. You don't. You know what you want, but you don't know what to do to get it. So when you surrender and turn it over, the one that does know, the Spirit in you, gives you what it is, and then you got to step into it. And you got to quit saying, yeah, well, that sounds like a little silly. I'm not going to do that. Anybody do that? And you should have. Oh, I'm not ready yet. Oh, that's a favorite. Anybody ever use that one? I'm not ready yet. People will say, I'm not ready yet. How do I know when you're ready? Is it happening? Yeah. Well, you're ready. No, none of that. You're ready if it's happening, right? So you got to turn it over. You got to trust. I got to tell you, I've had to trust to do some things that were absolutely bizarre that I would not have done, guaranteed 100%, if I'd have come up with that idea. If it hadn't come to me through spiritual ways, I would not have done it. But when it does, and surrender, then the gate opens. And then you never know what happens when the gate opens. So I call this the catapult effect. And a lot of you have known me a long time in here. I've been speaking on a regular basis, except for 1 year when I was sick, for 17 years. 16, 17 years now. So everybody knows that I teach from experience. I don't talk about something I'm working on. I talk about things, how they relate to principle that I've accomplished. So one of the concepts I tell people, when you're working at going forward and then all of a sudden all kinds of stuff comes up, and a lot of it's from a way back, like you get a whole rack of people. I just had somebody who had to do it, and they went to it, and 10 of the worst people they hated in their life all showed up at it at the same time. She was quite a stage, you know what I said? Congratulations, dear, because you are at a major crossroads. When that happens, and it takes you way back here, sometimes it's just a little step back and forward, like that goes like this. Every now and again it goes whoosh, and you're going, holy crap, Batman. Like what I shared with you happened to me this year after 40 years, the Pandora box. I rode the wave. I did what I needed to do. It was horrible. I'm not going to tell you it was nice. Why would I lie? It was horrible. However, I knew I needed to do it because it was an obstruction in me to the operation of truth. And when one does that, as I said before, what happens over here, it's like a catapult. You know, when they pull it back and they pull it back, way back here, and then whoosh! Right? And that happens. And what happens as you keep going along, it goes back to the field of dreams. Build it, and they will come. Clear the channel. Stand in the light and the faith. And I went through that, and in the last couple of months, in particular the last 10 days, I had 4 things that have happened to me that have blown me out of the water. And none of them I went looking for. I didn't do any advertising. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't do nothing. I got called. So the first one that Ann and I got is we got 3.5 times as much Santa work this year as we had last year. We landed a major contract on a new venue called Noel Christmas. It's at the Stampede Grounds with a 1 million light show inside. You may have heard it. If you see their ad and see Santa, that's me. And not only that, I couldn't do 2 1.5-hour sessions because Santa was already busy. So I suggested that maybe Mrs. Claus would do them. So get down there. Mrs. Claus is doing her first solo ever this year. Now, whoever thought that would happen for us? So here in the last 10 days, 2 national and an international thing. 1, I got called from the Canadian Certified Public Accounting Association, our Professional Accounting Association, wanting me to teach an online course for them. I said, I'm 70. I'm retired. We know. I don't have a master's, a PhD, a degree. We know. Yeah, we know. I'm not interested in teaching anything you're offering. Well, we know. What would you like to teach? I'm serious. I'm going, holy crap. Does this really happen? That's the only thing I'm interested in is personal development. Okay, do you think you could put together a 10-week course and get a module ready for us to have a look at? I go, I got Santa season. Can we talk in January? Sure. I go, what the hell's going on here? You know, so I got to follow up on it. You know what I mean? Then I get a call from Dr. Ken Gordon, who is the president of the Centers for Spiritual Living International. He's the spiritual president of our organization on that side. And they're doing a 3-part seminar series for all the international ministers. They said 200 or 300 will be on the program. And they got a 3-part series called Nurturing Your World. So how do you nurture yourself to nurture your world? And how do you do that in your congregations and that? And he's doing one on nurturing yourself during the holidays. So he asked me if I would appear as a religious science minister and talk about the spiritual principles of being Santa and how to nurture yourself during the holidays. I said, yes, I'll do it. How about that? Then I got a meeting on Tuesday for this, and I'm sharing this with you just to show you how the process works, okay? Just to show you what works. I got a call from a guy last week by the name of Robert Melanchuk, and he does a TV show on Christian TV, Yes TV, and he calls his show This Is Your Story. Shows 4 times a week, and it's the stories of redemption, discovery, and faith. And so a good friend of mine who we're going to talk about later when we do the announcements suggested he get a hold of me, and I have a meeting with him on Tuesday because he wants to do a show about Santa and Christmas where I'm going to be able to tell him that we're working at putting the Christ back in Christmas, buddy. But we're not doing it your way. And I told him, I said, I don't do things your way. I do things differently, but I come to the same strength. I wanted to prepare them because I'm a little bit different than the standard ones that they're good at. So really, all of this is happening. All of these people got a hold of me, and I go, whoa. And then I go, well, that's what I teach. That's what I teach. I teach that's how it happens, right? It's happening. I'm going, holy, I'm just trying to hang on. I'm just so high right now, I don't know what to do. Isn't it neat to have something like that? Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. And God only knows what else is around the door. I'm going to be careful here. Okay, so watch that catapult effect. When you get into the heavy stuff and it's old and real stinky, that's the greatest opportunity that you have to pull that back and cut it and wing you off into somewhere you can't even begin to imagine where it'll take you. I had never imagined any of what I just shared. And you can do that as long as when you get into that moving forward, you don't stay and play. The trouble is we stay and play. And so what's the key thing that we can do? I'll close with these ideas to step out of these and stand in the bright Christ light. Key. And this is what we can practice starting now. Step out of fear. Step out of worry. Step out of doubt. And stand in the light. Stand in the eye of the storm. I am calm. I am centered. I am peaceful. I am poised at all times and in all situations. You step into that when you step out of the other. When you stand in that, I dwell in the bright Christ light. Only goodness is attracted to me. Does it work? I'm going to keep doing it. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that there's an acknowledgement that within us is that Christ presence. And that Christ's presence has all that it needs to know and to do to help us be peaceful, prosperous, happy, and fulfilled. And as I know that truth for myself, I accept it to be true for you, and I give thanks. And so it is. We